You know that feeling when you click Add to Cart because the picture looks sleek, the headline specs are impressive, and you're convinced you've found the perfect backup power solution only to discover weeks later that the unit you're holding in your hands barely fits under your desk, the battery life feels like a joke, and the software never talks to your network like it promised? That's the nightmare many small office owners and home-based creators run into with UPSs. I've spent the last few months testing a handful of mid-range battery backups, reading through forums, and talking to IT managers who actually rely on this gear to keep servers, workstations, and home studios alive during an outage. If you're on the fence about whether a 3000 VA line interactive UPS is worth the investment for your current setup, keep watching. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. First off, let's set the stage for why a unit like this matters. In a typical home office, you might have a desktop PC, a couple of monitors, a NAS for backups, and maybe a router that keeps the whole house online. A sudden brownout can corrupt files, drop a video render, or leave you scrambling to recover a presentation. The APC SMX 3000 LVNC promises 3000 VA/2700W of pure sine wave power, an extended run option, and a network management card right out of the box. Those are the headline numbers we all see, but what does that translate to in everyday use? I started by looking at the physical footprint. Many UPSs in this voltage class are either huge tower models that swallow a whole rack space, or they come as dense 4U units that are difficult to fit into a tight office closet. The SMX 3000 LVNC advertises a short depth design, and on the bench it truly lives up to that claim. You can slide it under a standard 42-inch monitor without knocking anything over, and the side-mounting rails make the conversion to a 4U rack pretty painless if you later decide to move your gear into a rack cabinet. That flexibility is a practical win for anyone who might outgrow a desk-side setup. Power capacity is the next big question. A 3000 VA rating sounds generous, but it's easy to overshoot the real-world output if you try to protect every device in the room. The pure sine wave output is essential if you have a high-end workstation with sensitive power supplies, or if you're running a small server that expects clean AC. In my testing, I connected a 500W desktop tower, two 27-inch monitors, each about 30W, a NAS at 70W, and a router at 10W. That total of roughly 640W sits comfortably under the 2700W continuous rating, leaving plenty of headroom for spikes when the computer boots. The unit kept everything running for about 12 minutes during a simulated outage, which is exactly the window you need to save work and shut down gracefully. One of the most valuable, yet often glossed over, features is the extended run option. APC markets this as a way to add an extra battery pack for longer runtime. The hardware actually includes a connector and firmware support for a second battery, so you can literally double the backup window if you have the budget for a second pack. For most home users that's not a requirement, but for a remote video editor who might be filming on location, the ability to plug in that extra pack without replacing the whole unit is a real advantage. Now, let's talk networking because that's where a lot of buyers get tripped up. The SMX 3000 LVNC ships with a pre-installed network management card, Model A. In theory, that means you can monitor battery health, load percentages, and environmental data, temperature, humidity, from a web interface or through APC's PowerShoot software. The catch is that the card requires a dedicated Ethernet connection and proper configuration in your network's DHCP server or static IP assignment. In a small office where the UPS is the only device on a separate VLAN, setting it up was a breeze. Just plug it into the router, pull up the default IP, and you have a clean dashboard. In a more chaotic home network with multiple routers, guest Wi-Fi, and occasional IP conflicts, you may need to assign a static IP to avoid the UPS disappearing from the monitoring console. If you're not comfortable tweaking network settings, you might end up ignoring the management features entirely, turning the unit into a dumb battery backup. Another practical consideration is the audible alert system. The SMX 3000 LVNC uses a series of beeps to signal power loss and battery depletion. The sound is noticeable but not ear-splitting, which is fine for a garage workshop or a server room. However, if your office is a quiet, shared space, those beeps could be a nuisance. The unit does let you mute the alarm for a short period, but the mute will reset after a power event, so you have to remember to remute it each time. It's a small detail, but one that can affect user experience. Who should buy this UPS? If you run a single workstation with a decent UPS capacity, a smaller 1500 VA model might already cover your needs and come